Welcome to our deep dive into fitness motivation. You've given us quite a bit to unpack with excerpts from Michelle Segar's book, No Sweat, and even some personal stories, all kind of circling around this idea of making exercise, well, making it last.
I think that's a question on a lot of people's minds.
It is so. Is there like a magic formula, a one-size-fits-all solution to make fitness stick?
Well, the desire for a quick fix is certainly understandable. But one of the things that Cigar's research really highlights is that it's really not about finding that magic bullet. It's more about understanding and avoiding what she calls the vicious cycle of failure.
A shift cycle of failure. That sounds a little intense. Can you kind of break down what that looks
That's
like?
her. So picture this. You start exercising with good intentions, right?
Mhm.
Maybe you're driven by, wanting to lose weight, or maybe it's societal pressure to look a certain way. So you push yourself hard, you stick to strict routines. But then what happens is that initial enthusiasm fizzles out. You get burned out, and eventually, well, you just give up.
Oh, yeah, that sounds familiar. Kind of like that New Year's resolution gym membership that gets abandoned by February.
Exactly. And the cycle just keeps repeating because the motivation is coming from a sense of obligation instead of a place of genuine enjoyment. We end up viewing exercise as a chore, something we have to check off a list, rather than an activity that we actually find rewarding.
So if this external pressure kind of backfires,
Yeah.
how do we find a more sustainable, a more internal source of motivation?
Well, Segar suggests a pretty significant shift in perspective. She proposes that we reframe exercise as a gift to ourselves, an act of self-care, rather than a punishment.
A gift. Hmm, that's an interesting way to think about it. What would that look like in practice?
Well, it involves choosing activities that you genuinely enjoy, activities that align with your values and interests, rather than forcing yourself into routines you dread. It's about finding pleasure in movement, just like you might find pleasure in, say, enjoying a delicious meal or listening to your favorite music.
So if I find joy in dancing, even if it's not what you'd traditionally consider like a hardcore workout, it still counts.
Absolutely. And this ties into Sagar's concept of identifying your right whys. You see, traditional motivators like wanting to lose weight or prevent disease often fall short because they lack that personal connection to our immediate well being, right whys. On the other hand, they resonate deeply with our daily lives and priorities. They stem from a desire to feel energized, to manage stress, or simply to experience the joy of moving our bodies.
So then the question becomes, how do we uncover these right whys? It's like we need an internal compass to guide us towards movement that feels genuinely authentic to our needs.
That's a great way to put it. It really requires introspection, asking yourself, what truly motivates me to move?
Yeah.
And what benefits am I hoping to experience through physical activity? Is it about improving my mood, getting better sleep, or just feeling more capable in my daily life? Those are the kind of compelling reasons that fuel lasting change.
I'm starting to rethink my whole approach to movement. It's not about squeezing into a smaller size. It's about cultivating this sense of vitality and well-being that impacts my entire life.
Exactly. And what's really remarkable is that embracing movement doesn't have to involve these grand gestures or strict time commitments. Seagar really emphasizes that everything counts.
Wait, so are you saying we don't need to buy into the idea that a workout has to be a certain length or intensity to be beneficial?
That's right. We often get trapped in this all or nothing mindset, assuming that if we can't carve out an hour for the gym, it's not even worth the effort. But even incorporating short bursts of activity throughout our day can have a significant impact.
This reminds me of what Cigar says about the negative effects of excessive sitting. We're so tethered to our desks and screens these days. Could simply incorporating small movements throughout the day, like taking the stairs or walking while talking on the phone, actually make a difference?
Absolutely. It's about recognizing those small windows of opportunity and consciously choosing movement over inertia. Every step, every stretch, each effort to move our bodies contributes to our well being in some way.
I'm thinking about my own daily routine and where I could sneak in more movement. What about you?
Well, I find it fascinating how Cigar addresses the guilt we often associate with prioritizing self care, especially when it comes to exercise. It's almost as if we've been conditioned to put everyone else's needs before our own.
I definitely relate to that feeling. It's a societal norm that could be hard to shake. Do her clients ever express similar struggles?
Many of them do. They often express feelings of guilt, struggling to reconcile this perceived selfishness of dedicating time to their own well being amidst all the demands of work, family, and other obligations.
It's comforting in a way to know that this is a common struggle, not some personal flaw.
And that's where Cigar introduces this really fascinating concept she calls the self care paradox. She proposes that neglecting our own needs actually hinders our ability to effectively care for others. When we prioritize self-care, including movement, we replenish our energy, we enhance our emotional resilience, and we ultimately become better equipped to handle life's challenges.
Wow, that's a powerful way to reframe it. It reminds me of that classic analogy of securing your own oxygen mask before assisting others on an airplane. We can't effectively support those around us if we're depleted ourselves.
Exactly. Taking care of ourselves is not an indulgence. It's an act of responsibility that allows us to show up more fully in all aspects of our lives.
I really appreciate how this deep dive is challenging conventional notions of fitness motivation. It's not about guilt or chasing some arbitrary goal. It's about cultivating a mindful and sustainable relationship with our bodies, prioritizing movement as an act of self-care that benefits not only ourselves, but also those we care about.
And Segar doesn't just identify the problem, she actually provides a roadmap for enacting lasting change, outlining 6 key ideas for making fitness a lifelong habit.
That sounds promising.
Yeah.
I'm excited to delve into those strategies and see how we can apply them to our own lives.
Well, let's dive into them. The first principle centers around recognizing self-care, including regular physical activity as an absolutely essential component of well-being. It's not a luxury to squeeze in when time allows. It's a fundamental practice that should be woven into the fabric of our lives.
This really does feel like a shift in mindset, moving from I should to I choose to. It's about taking ownership and recognizing that prioritizing our well-being is an investment, not a selfish indulgence.
And then Sagar encourages us to shift our focus from chasing these arbitrary goals like weight loss to mastering new skills and habits. So instead of fixating on the number on the scale, maybe we aim to increase our flexibility or build strength or maybe even learn a new activity altogether.
I like that. It's about celebrating progress over perfection and embracing that journey of self-discovery. It almost transforms exercise from a means to an end into an exploration of our physical potential.
And that brings us to the importance of creating small, realistic plans. Sustainable change rarely happens overnight, right? It's usually a gradual process. So instead of trying to overhaul your entire lifestyle all at once, start by incorporating one manageable change. Maybe it's adding a 10-minute walk to your day or choosing the stairs over the elevator a couple of times a week.
That feels much less intimidating than trying to change everything at once.
Yeah.
It's about building momentum slowly and creating that foundation for lasting transformation. Does Sagar talk about the role of social support at all?
She does. She actually highlights the power of involving friends and family, finding activities you can all enjoy together. Not only does it make fitness more fun, but that sense of camaraderie creates accountability and helps people stay committed.
It makes sense that fitness becomes more engaging and sustainable when it's a shared experience.
Mm.
Whether it's joining a hiking group, taking a dance class, or even just going for walks with a friend, that shared commitment can really make a difference.
Segar's next principle focuses on embracing challenges as opportunities for learning and growth. Setbacks are a part of life, right? There will be days when things don't go according to plan. But instead of viewing those moments as defeats, she encourages us to use them as opportunities for reflection, adaptation, and ultimately building resilience.
I find that perspective so liberating. It gives us permission to be human, to acknowledge that life is unpredictable, and that's okay. It's not about striving for this elusive perfection, but rather developing the ability to navigate those inevitable detours with grace and adaptability.
One practical tool she offers for dealing with these potential roadblocks is what she calls if-then planning. This involves anticipating those situations where our routine might get disrupted and proactively creating backup plans.
I love that idea. Can you give me an example? I'm curious to see how it would work in real life.
Sure, let's say you usually go for a run in the mornings, but you wake up and it's pouring rain. Instead of just giving up, your if-then plan might be to have a yoga video queued up and ready to go. By having these alternatives in place, we're less likely to let those external factors completely derail our commitment to movement.
That's a great strategy for staying consistent amidst life's unpredictability. It's like turning obstacles into opportunities for creative problem solving.
Exactly. It's about approaching challenges with a proactive mindset and a toolkit of strategies to navigate whatever comes our way. And finally, Segar emphasizes the importance of regular evaluation. She encourages us to periodically pause and ask ourselves what's working, what's not, and what adjustments can I make to improve my approach.
It's like becoming our own personal scientist, conducting experiments, gathering data, and refining our methods based on our own unique experiences. This turns the pursuit of fitness from this rigid, prescriptive thing into this personalized journey of exploration.
Precisely. Now, this brings us to the 10-point summary you requested, which encapsulates Segar's key principles for creating a sustainable and joyful relationship with physical activity.
Okay, I'm ready to hear these distilled into actionable steps.
Yeah.
It's like we're getting a treasure map, guiding us towards a more fulfilling and embodied way of life. Shall we get started?
Let's dive in. The first principle is that exercise doesn't have to be a chore. Reframe it as a gift, a nurturing act of self-care that benefits both your body and your mind.
That's a powerful shift. Moving away from that I have to and stepping into I choose to, it really does change how we look at it.
Right. And the second point is all about finding your right way. What truly motivates you to move? Connect with the benefits that matter to you, the ones that align with your values and well-being.
So it's about understanding what makes movement personally meaningful and finding those intrinsic rewards that will keep us going.
And then the third principle is a big one. Remember that every bit of movement counts. You don't have to be tied to those rigid time or intensity guidelines. Just celebrate every step you take literally.
That's so freeing. It really helps us break free from that all-or-nothing thinking and recognize that even small bursts of activity can make a difference.
The fourth point is to give yourself permission to prioritize self-care. It's not selfish. It's actually an act of responsibility. When we take care of our own needs, we're better able to care for others and show up fully in our lives.
It's like challenging those societal expectations and embracing self-care as a fundamental part of a balanced and fulfilling life.
Exactly. The fifth principle is to start with small, realistic changes and gradually build momentum. Lasting habits are formed over time, not through these big, drastic overhauls.
It's about taking that gentle and progressive approach, honoring our own pace,
Yeah.
and celebrating all those small wins along the way.
The sixth principle is to shift your focus from seeking those quick fixes to embracing the journey of mastering new skills and habits.
That really changes things. It transforms exercise from a means to an end into a continuous exploration of what our bodies can do.
The seventh principle is to welcome challenges as opportunities for learning and growth. Setbacks are going to happen, but they don't have to derail us. They can actually offer valuable insights that help us refine our approach and build resilience.
So we're developing that growth mindset where we see obstacles as stepping stones and not roadblocks.
Exactly. And the eighth principle is to enlist the support of your friends and family. Create a shared experience that makes fitness more enjoyable and helps everyone stay accountable.
I love that. The camaraderie and encouragement of a supportive community can make such a difference.
The ninth principle is to use that if-then planning we talked about to anticipate obstacles and create those backup plans. That way, you're more likely to stay consistent even when life throws you a curveball.
It's like having a strategy in place so that those external factors don't sabotage our commitment to movement.
And finally, the 10th principle is to remember that this is an ongoing process. Regularly evaluate what's working, what's not, and make adjustments as needed. Become your own self-care scientist.
It's about staying curious and adaptable, recognizing that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to fitness.
And there you have it. The 10 key principles from Michelle Segar's work, a framework for cultivating a joyful and sustainable relationship with movement.
This deep dive has been so insightful. It's really changed how I think about fitness motivation, and it's given me a whole new perspective on embracing movement as an act of self-care and celebration.
So now that you've learned these principles, what one small change are you going to make this week to bring more movement into your life? Maybe it's a quick dance, break a walk during your lunch hour, or just taking the stairs instead of the elevator. Every little bit counts.
That's a great question for everyone listening. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of movement motivation. Until next time, may you find joy in the journey and discover the transformative power of movement.